Welcome back to the blended harmony of the Gospels by The Chosen. We are on day 16, part 1, Demanding a Miracle. Demanding a miracle from Matthew chapter 15. After dismissing the crowds, he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the region of Magadan, the district of Dalmanutha. The Pharisees and Sadducees approached and began to argue with him, demanding of him a sign from heaven to test him. He sighed deeply in his spirit and replied, "When evening comes, you say, 'It will be good weather because the sky is red,' and in the morning, 'Today will be stormy because the sky is red and threatening.' You know how to read the appearance of the sky, but you can't read the signs of the times. Why does this evil and adulterous generation demand a sign? Truly I tell you, no sign will be given to this generation except the sign of Jonah." Then he left them, got back into the boat, and went to the other side. The disciples had forgotten to take bread and only had one loaf with them in the boat. Then he gave them strict orders. "Watch out! Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees and the leaven of Herod." They were discussing among themselves, "We didn't bring any bread." Aware of this, he said to them, "Why are you discussing the fact that you have no bread? You of little faith, don't you understand and comprehend? Do you have hardened hearts? Do you have eyes and do not see? Do you have ears and do not hear and do not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets of leftovers did you collect?" 12, they told him. "And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many baskets full of pieces did you collect?" 7, they said. And he said to them, "Don't you understand? Why is it you don't understand that when I told you, 'Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees,' it wasn't about bread?" Then they understood that he had not told them to beware of the leaven in the bread, but the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They came to Bethsaida. They brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and brought him out of the village. Spitting on his eyes and laying his hands on him, he said to him, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking." And again Jesus placed his hands on the man's eyes. The man looked intently, and his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Then he sent him home, saying, "Don't even go into the village." Peter's great confession. Jesus came to the region and villages of Caesarea Philippi. On the road, he was praying in private, and his disciples were with him. He asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah, or one of the ancient prophets who has come back." "But you," he asked them, "who do you say that I am?" And Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus responded, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overpower it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he strictly warned and instructed the disciples to tell no one that he was the Messiah. So many good things in there. Let's go back. First of all, the Pharisees and the Sadducees are approaching him, and they're beginning to argue, and they're saying they want a sign. And Jesus is kind of teasing them with the sky is red scenario. He's kind of saying, it doesn't really take a genius to figure out the weather, right? You can look and figure it out. But they could not figure out the signs of the time. And the only sign he said he would give to this generation would be the sign of Jonah. He didn't really go on to explain this sign of Jonah, but this is what it is. Jonah was 3 days in the belly of the whale and then was spit out, right? Raised back to life. Same thing. Jesus is going to spend 3 days in the tomb, in the ground, and then be raised back to life again. So that is the sign of Jonah. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. It wasn't about bread that he was talking about. What he was really talking about is leaven is an ingredient that you put in dough that you mix in, and it mixes all throughout the dough. It's a very small ingredient, but you put that in the dough, it makes the dough rise. It affects the dough. So what he's saying is that beware that there's no bad leaven in your lives and in the new church and in your families from these Pharisees and Sadducees, because they can kind of infiltrate, right? So he was reminding them that something very small like leaven can actually really change and make bread rise, which is a good thing when we're making bread. But beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And in today's terms, we need to be aware of the leaven of the internet and YouTube and all those bad influences in our lives, because they might seem really small, but they get into our hearts and can really change us for the worse. And then Peter's great confession. I love this. He asked them, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they replied, some John the Baptist, others Elijah, come back to life, or Jeremiah, one of the ancient prophets who's come back. But then he says, "Who do you say that I am?" And I love it. Simon Peter gives the best answer. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. He knew exactly who Jesus was, and I love that. And I hope today that you know that he is the Son of the living God, and that we all live our lives believing that he is the Son of the living God. Because if we truly believe that, we're going to live differently. And then he says he's going to give him the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And the keys of the kingdom is the access that we have to God and the divine authority that he gives us on this earth. And it's a good reminder that we should be ruling our world. Don't let the world rule you. We need to be standing our ground, living like Christians, believing in God and Jesus and the resurrection and the Bible and everything that it stands on, and that we should go out and not rule over people, but don't let them rule over us. My life is lived on the Bible and that truth. And also then when he gives us, the keys to the kingdom. Did you ever get a key to a city? I know when my kids were little, they had done some really fun project and the mayor gave them a key to the city. It was really kind of cute, just this big key. But we have the keys to the kingdom, and we need to live like that we have access to God and all of his power. So I hope today you just enjoyed this and you realize that Jesus is the Son of God, and we can all just proclaim like Peter, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And we just live it and believe it and act like it, because so often we go around kind of all wimpy and everything. But we have the keys to the kingdom. We know who God is. We have his power and his access. So I hope today you can live like that in his power, and come back again tomorrow for more Harmony of the Gospels. Because remember, God's word in your heart is the best way to live. See you tomorrow. Yes, we hope they come back. You can get your own copy of A Blended Harmony of the Gospels by The Chosen simply by going to thechosengifts.com. There you can find all kinds of wonderful merchandise to help build your faith this year. Be sure to check out their devotionals and their Bible studies. Have a blessed day.